What is this? NICHE, niche specialization. Please, this is a word that needs to be understood. Now, if I have to make you understand what is a niche, I have to make you understand what is a habitat first. And that is something which we've heard about it before. Ishita, what's a habitat, beta?
Area where species live.
An area in which a species can live, it can reproduce, it can, वो comfortably अपने सारे functions को establish कर सकता है. ऐसे एरिया को बोलेंगे कि वो उस organism का habitat है. Everybody knows what's a habitat, no? Please. My second question is, see, habitats can be different, no? Please. You can have a terrestrial habitat, you can have an aquatic habitat, you can have an aerial habitat, you can have an arboreal habitat, you can have a fossorial habitat, right? Now, बहुत सारे अलग. So, different organisms have different habitats. My question is, if there is a particular habitat, can the habitat have multiple species in it? Yes or no? Yes. A habitat can have multiple species. Now, we are talking about one species. Every species, ध्यान से सुनो please. Every species in its own habitat has a functional role to establish. Every species in its own habitat has a particular functional role which any other species cannot do. See, a habitat, you can imagine it like a jigsaw puzzle where multiple species can perform functions and then they become a whole ecosystem. राइट ना? अगर वो जिक्सॉ पजल में से मैंने एक चीज निकाल दिया तो वो खाली रहेगी जगह, राइट ना? तो वो फंक्शनल रोल जो वो स्पीशीज उस हैबिटेट में कर रहा है उसको बोलेंगे नीश. सो राइट डाउन व्हाट इज नीश. द फंक्शनल रोल ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर स्पीशीज the functional role of a particular species in its habitat is called niche. My second question is, can a single niche be occupied by two species? No. क्योंकि उसका रोल वही परफॉर्म कर सकता है कि नहीं? So what is the difference between a habitat and a niche? An habitat can be occupied by multiple species, but a niche can be occupied only by one species. So एक चीज clear है, habitat is a physical thing that we are referring to. Niche is not.
But for the second part of the question, the niche wala part, you have to mention in a specific habitat.
In a specific habitat. Is the difference between niche and a habitat being clear, please? What's a niche and what's a habitat? Right now, so habitat can get occupied by multiple species, but a niche can be occupied by only one species. Right now, so coming back to our reason for tropics. So tropical areas are less seasonal, more constant, predictable. So this constant environment is promoting niche specialization. So jitne niches banenge, do all these niches have to be occupied by a special species now? So that means diversification is going to be more because each of these niches has to be fulfilled now. Right? So understand that when a species gets extinct, उसका niche खाली रह जाता है. Why are we talking about ecological imbalance? मतलब उसका रोल उस एनवायरमेंट में, उस हैबिटेट में फुलफिल करने के लिए फिर कुछ भी नहीं है. So this kind of an environment will promote formation of niche and this will lead to greater species diversity. Because more the number of niches, they have to get occupied by the species. So if a particular habitat, let's say habitat A, is occupied by organism X, right? और X के इस habitat में 10,000 X are present. The number is 10,000. Are these 10,000 occupying 10,000 niche or one niche? Now you understood this. Because all of them are performing the same functional role. अब समझा ये physical नहीं है. So niche से कोई भी physical attribute नहीं है. Physical attribute किसको लगाएंगे हम लोग? Habitat को लगाएंगे. Have I made myself understandable, please? Am I understanding? Yes, Pratap.
Sir, so the second reason can also lead to the first one, right? Because if it remains undisturbed, then they can develop their own niche.
ठीक है ना? That's why. Okay. हाँ बोलो बोलो.
Sir, so you said 10,000 same species
हाँ.
occupy one niche.
Obviously, because I said one niche can be occupied by one species.
Okay.
है क्या नहीं?
And this comes only at the species level.
Species level, yes. So are the three reasons very clear, please? हाँ?
But sir, यहाँ पे आपने बोला कि the species found का ratio is,
हाँ.
and here you're saying that in general.
In general,
total
yes.
species are-
Okay. So first pattern of distribution of biodiversity that we have explored is the latitudinal. The second pattern is called species area relationship. Oh, graph आ गया ये तो. ग्राफ का मतलब इक्वेशन, इक्वेशन का मतलब न्यूमेरिकल्स. Right now, one thing leads to the others. ठीक है. Anyway, right? You know my method. Graph आया तो focus is always on x and y. Right? So x पे we have area and y पे we have species richness. Now this relation between area and its species richness, this was studied first by the German naturalist and geographer Alexander von Humboldt. Alexander von Humboldt, right? A lot of Alexanders in history, right? Alexander the Great, then Alexander Fleming, Graham Bell, and now Humboldt. Now he was the one who put up this relationship, right? What are the two things that you're comparing? Species richness versus a area. Now what was his observation? The observation was that within a region, species richness, आगे दोनों पैरामीटर्स, रीजन भी आ गया, स्पीशीज रिचनेस भी आ गया. Species richness increased with increasing explored area. Let's say I'm area exploring, let's say for example 1 kilometer. So 1 kilometer में I take one particular taxa, let's say birds. Is bird a taxa? Class A's ना? Right now? So 1 kilometer में कितने birds है? कितना species rich है? How many birds का species are present? So if I now increase 1 kilometer to 5 kilometers, so the number of species is going to go high. So species richness increases with every explored area increment, but only up to a limit. Because number of species तो limited ही है ना, ऐसा तो नहीं infinite हो जाएगा. So species area, species richness increased with increasing explored area, but only up to a limit. Okay, I remember one exam where I had given 4 statements, वही identify true false, ठीक है ना? जहां पर मैंने सिर्फ ये जर्मन का कर दिया था फ्रेंच, राइट? हाँ? Please, the reason I'm telling you such small changes are sometimes very difficult to identify, because अपना फोकस नाम पे रहेगा, नेशनैलिटी पे नहीं रहेगा. हाँ. And in one of the NEET years, there was once this very stupid question asked. I don't know why they place these kind of questions about Punnett. English geneticist. He has described, description में लिखा हुआ है. It's English geneticist, right now, and the focus was on that he was from UK or England or something like that. Right now, how will that make me a good doctor? I don't know. Okay. Huh? Earlier, there was no specialization. Please quiet. Earlier, there was no specialization of studying botany or zoology. Everything studied in nature is a naturalist. Darwin was a naturalist.
तो अभी भी वो ब्रांच है कि
नहीं है, अभी बहुत स्पेशलाइजेशन आ गया, राइट ना? सबको सब कुछ थोड़ी पड़ता है. Yes. Yes, sir.
So for this, we have to start with an area where the species exist.
नहीं, you can consider any area. When you're talking about patterns means इस area में कितने species है? What is the distribution? Okay.
You don't know the distribution.
You're just trying to find out the ratio. Now, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is yet to follow, please. In fact, the relation between species richness and an area, species richness y, area x, for a wide variety of taxa, फिर से taxa आ गया देखो, angiosperm, birds, plants, bats, freshwater fishes. Please understand one thing. I had ये साल का प्रॉब्लम बता रहा हूं तुमको मैं, राइट? I had put a taxa for mammals against species richness. तो वो लोग झगड़ा करने आ गए, बोले सर ब्रैकेट में मैमल नहीं है. अरे बोला गधा, लेकिन मैमल टैक्सा तो है कि नहीं? यहाँ पर सिर्फ एज एन एग्जाम्पल दे हैव मेंशन्ड. सो दिस ग्राफ इज नॉट रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू दिस 5 एग्जाम्पल्स. Please, it could be any taxa here. So now do you understand why identifying taxa and category is important? ऐसे क्वेश्चन में फंस जाएंगे फिर. Okay, so why? So taxa turns out to be a rectangular hyperbola, the first of the equation which is there on your graph. Right? Can you see the equation? S is equal to CA raised to Z. It is not CA square. वो Z को थोड़ा बोल्ड कर दो. हाँ, राइट ना? इट इज कर्व. उसको पूरा फुल करेंगे तो हाइपरबोला हो जाएगा. ओके. What is the equation of that, please? S is equal to CA raised to Z. Right now? You might have somebody inserting one option as S is equal to CA square. Somebody. CA square. Please, you have to be careful. CA raised to Z है वो. तो फिर बोलेंगे सर बताया नहीं. Okay. Now, on the logarithmic scale, if this is now treated with log, it becomes a straight line. And the straight line equation is log S is equal to log C plus Z log A. Wherein S and A are self-explanatory. S is species richness, A is area. अपने X और Y के parameters हैं. C is the y-intercept of that line. And Z is the slope of this line, which is called regression coefficient. So again we have two equations to be identified. Ab, one interesting observation regarding Z. You can take any area with any taxa. यही दो चीज कंपेयर कर रहे हैं हम लोग. Area with taxa, right? एग्जाम्पल दिया उन्होंने, देखो. प्लांट्स इन ब्रिटेन. प्लांट्स इज टैक्सा, ब्रिटेन इज एरिया. बर्ड्स इन कैलिफोर्निया, टैक्सा, एरिया. मोलास्क्स इन न्यूयॉर्क, टैक्सा, एरिया. सो फॉर ईच ऑफ देम अ ग्राफ हैज टू बी प्लॉटेड. when you change the taxa, change the area. Or ulta, keep the area same, keep on changing taxa. Birds in Bombay, fungus in Bombay, right ना? Mammals in Bombay. So आप taxa change करते जा रहे हो, area को same रखा है, तो वहां पर भी हर एक के लिए ग्राफ अलग आएगा. In all of these instances, what you will find is Z का value is always between 0.1 to 0.2. That means the pattern of distribution is the same. The value of Z is always between 0.1 to 0.6. Sorry, 0.1 to 0.2. Regardless of the group or the area. So your question can be 4 graphs, right? यहां पर एरिया है, यहां पर स्पीशीज है. सो हो सकता है यहां पर एरिया अलग अलग हो, स्पीशीज अलग अलग हो सकता है एरिया सेम हो, स्पीशीज अलग अलग हो सकता है स्पीशीज सेम हो, एरिया डिफरेंट हो, and they will all give you this straight line. बराबर ना? And then ask you what is the value of Z. What has happened? Z will always remain between 0.1 to 0.2 regardless of the group or regardless of the area. Now one small exception. If the area under consideration is as big as a continent, in that case, matlab you're talking about a very large area. In that case, the value of Z can go between 0.6 to 1.2. ये छोटा सा एक्सेप्शन है. और वहां पर भी उन्होंने एक एग्जाम्पल दिया. Frugivorous birds, fruit eating birds and mammals. In tropical forest of different continents, the slope is found to be around 1.15, which is between 0.6 to 1.2. Are you getting this, please? हाँ? Now, जब frugivorous is fruit eating, इसके पहले के चैप्टर में आया था phytophagous. 25% of insects are phytophagous. उसके पहले भी एक टर्म आया था coprophilous, growing on dung. These are the oddball terms, right now? So maybe you should please remember them. ठीक है? So how many patterns we have identified? 2. What are the 2 patterns? One is the latitudinal gradient, and the second is the species area relationship, right? The second half of the chapter we will be covering in the next session. Okay, one half is done today. Huh? They are moving towards the y-axis. No, beta. Keep मतलब क्या? हाँ, more species. Yes. Yes.